New shocking details have emerged about the man in the crowd that got up and cheered in the immediate aftermath of Charlie Kirk being shot. This individual released a statement, and something is not quite adding up as I'm about to take you through. Also, former Turning Point USA board member Eric Bolling returned to the Patrick Bet-David podcast and was given the chance to explain himself after it was found out that he blatantly lied about Charlie Kirk's relationship with Candace Owens. And as you're about to see, he just made matters worse. Finally, you'll remember that right after Charlie Kirk was killed, Candace Owens was very unhappy with the way that many pro-Israel people were behaving in the wake of his death. She called them out as liars for claiming that Charlie was a never-ending supporter of Israel. They claimed that he never wavered in his support, and the pro-Israel crowd called her a liar and began a coordinated smear campaign against her. She then produced the text message thread where Charlie explicitly stated that he was tired of the way that Jewish donors were treating and bullying him, and that he was leaving, along with Turning Point USA, the pro-Israel cause. Candace identified Josh Hammer as one of the people on that message thread, and now Hammer is organizing to sue Candace Owens for defamation. We'll start there. I'm Zach Costello.
I'm talking to lawyers. I think that I'm a lawyer by background. I clerked for a federal appeals judge. I know a thing or two about United States constitutional law. I think that we have a potentially serious case here for defamation, and I'm very much speaking with lawyers, and we'll see what happens.
She is lying in a way that is resonating with people in a way that damages you significantly.
Yeah, it's just so evil. I mean, Charlie was a good friend of mine. I mean, I've known him for 5-6 years, give or take, but we really became close over the final year and a half of his life. We were in daily communication. I don't actually know precisely the extent to which he and Candace communicated in the final year or two, but she very much was on the outs of Turning Point USA. And my understanding is that they were not in touch at all. I mean, maybe kind of a happy birthday kind of here or there, but not close touch.
Candace Owens has been willing to turn over every stone and burn every bridge to find out what happened to Charlie Kirk. The way in which people like Josh Hammer came out claiming that Charlie never wavered in his support of Israel, despite having been on that text message thread wherein Charlie said the opposite, was a red flag for Candace, and she had a problem with it. That's why she called him out. She called Josh Hammer a liar for what he said, and it's certainly justified, so I don't see what kind of defamation case that he has against her. But speaking of potential defamation, Eric Bolling was brought back onto the PBD podcast and given the chance to explain the blatant lies that he told about Candace Owens and her relationship with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. As you're about to see, he just made matters worse.
We talked about Candace Owens, if you remember, when the Candace Owens conversation came about. And then I called you and I said, hey, Eric, people are asking questions about two items. One, the comment you made about being on the board, and the other one was a comment made about that Candace hadn't spoken at Turning Point USA for 2 years. I think you said that. And then the audience on sent a message, which was June of 2024, 18 months or 14 months prior to you speaking. I know you responded to it on your channel, but people want to see on you responding here as well. What do you have to say to the audience?
So it remains. 2019, I was going from a show I was hosting in D.C. to a restaurant just outside the D.C. area. I get a phone call. It's Charlie Kirk. He said, Eric, I'd love to have you on the board of Turning Point USA. It just, it wasn't maybe a year or two of its real gusto at the time. I said, Charlie, I love your vision. I'd love to do that. I've spoken, and I was an advisory board member from 2019 to 2024 ballpark, early 24. And then I moved over to the honorary board. I'm still on their honorary board. So anyone who says like, oh, he's not on the board. No, I'm not on the actual day-to-day business of the board, but I'm an honorary board member after spending 5 years as an advisory board member. Clear that up, walk past that. As far as the comment on Candace, Pat, I think I said I hadn't seen her, or she hadn't been a speaker at TPUSA for a couple of years. And I guess I was mistaken because it was 18 months. And I had forgotten about the 2024 event as I think she was pregnant. Anyway, Candace Owens' army let me know it. They were very upset. And this was all stemming from kind of a back and forth I had with Adam about, she was blaming Israel for Charlie Kirk's assassination. I just didn't think that was a fair assessment. And then turns out the next day she said it was the U.S. government who assassinated Charlie Kirk. I have no axe to grind with Candace Owens or her fan base. That's fine. I'm just living in the real world a little bit more reality based. I believe there are forces behind Charlie Kirk's assassination, but I don't think it's Israel. I'm pretty sure it's not, and I'm pretty sure it's not the U.S. government.
Who do you think it is? I mean,
I think it's the trans activist group funded by the Soros network of liberal progressive lunatics, and whether it's directly funded or they just fund these Antifa groups and it's riles up their base, and their base is anti-Trump. Anything pro-Trump gets in the way. And because of Charlie's success reaching into young people, he became a target to this whole Antifa, trans, progressive left cabal.
Problem with that is that isn't what he said. He just doubled down on the lie. In fact, he just doubled down on 3 lies. This is what he actually said.
You're on the board of Turning Point?
Yeah.
Okay. When's the last time you saw Candace Owens?
In person?
Yeah.
2015,
Oh,
2016.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. No,
When's the last time she was at a Turning Point event?
Not in many years.
Okay.
But
So let's
here, you don't
without
have to do
even
this,
being
Adam.
biased.
There's a
Is Candace even involved in Charlie Kirk's life at all?
No question, proof that Candace Owens has nothing to do. She would be in a perfect world if they didn't have this. What I already know was a very quiet breakup where she got too rabbit hole for him. She would be the logical heir to the TPUSA throne, but she's
And
not.
now she's not even invited.
Correct. So this is
So,
their divide is.
wait a
is-
minute, not
is-
invited meaning
She's not even there.
Yeah, she's not.
She's not
one
there.
of the names
Wait,
that.
you don't think she'll be at the funeral?
No.
That's
I mean,
not the
heir,
funeral.
The heir to
I'm
the
saying
okay.
TPUSA throne.
She doesn't speak at the events anymore.
I mean,
So he said, or alluded to the fact that he was currently on the Turning Point USA board, not a past or honorary board member. He also said that Charlie had a silent breakup with Candace Owens because she was chasing down rabbit holes, which also isn't true. They remained friends. And he said that it had been many years since Candace was doing a Turning Point USA event. Also not true. The continual lies from people with special interests are a red flag, which leads us to the man who got caught cheering in the crowd after Charlie Kirk got shot. Do you remember this guy? Well, his name is David, and here he is finally breaking his silence, explaining what happened and why he did what he did. This doesn't add up.
The event opened with music, people throwing hats, and loud exchanges from different parts of the crowd. Some shouted offensive remarks directed at the LGBT community, while others made disparaging comments about the Prophet of Islam. There were also cheers, boos, and offensive hand gestures, mockery. The atmosphere carried an energy of confrontation more than dialogue. The first debater tried to persuade Charlie to adopt Mormonism, but the exchange drifted into a disjointed back and forth of opinions. The audience eventually booed him off platform. Another speaker raised the idea of restricting gun rights for transgender individuals. Citing Donald Trump as an influence, he began to reference statistics and posed a question. Charlie's response turned to the subject of gang violence as a part of the mass shooting statistics. At that point, I did not see what happened directly. My head was lowered while I listened. When I heard a sharp crack, at first I thought it might have been fireworks or a disruptive prank, so I looked up to the horizon for smoke. When none appeared, I realized it must have been a firearm. My friend reacted in horror, saying Charlie had been struck. His voice and description told me how serious it was. Based on his reaction, I believed Charlie had been gravely injured. I instinctively checked the security team's movement, though I have no affiliation with them. Realizing the situation was dangerous, I stood and shouted USA, not as a provocation, but to project strength, encourage others, and create a distraction that might help calm panic or even save lives. At that moment, no one knew whether this was a lone shooter or something coordinated. My friend was devastated. He admitted he admired Charlie deeply. I only knew Charlie through minimal content, but would never wish to celebrate harm to anyone. Because of my background as a soldier, I was able to stay calm under stress, focus on protecting and comforting my friend. Afterward, I called my wife to let her know I was safe. Once traffic eased, we left.
First of all, what kind of a reading of a prepared statement is this? Like, is this supposed to be believable? Second, if you thought, David, that there might have been a second shooter, why in the world are you doing this? Watch again. Like, why are you throwing up your hands and you're happy? Like, does this look like someone who is concerned for others and for the crowd? The lies continue, and where lies are, darkness is. This is the reason for the red flags, and this is why people have questions. Weird behavior, weird lies. Doesn't lead to good places. I'm Zach Costello.